This is TWiT.
Let's just get right into it. Has Disney Plus been hacked?
I have absolutely no idea. Here's what's going on. As soon as Disney Plus went live, it essentially had 10 million plus subscribers right then, as soon as things went live on the 12th. That includes everybody, including myself, who signed up ahead of time and got a deal or whatever. It includes the people who signed up on day one, and it includes the people who signed up and found they couldn't get into their accounts for some reason. So go back to day one and remember, Disney also had some relatively serious tech problems that kept people from signing in or kept them from being able to watch. And combine that with, lo and behold, all these accounts showing up either on the dark web or eBay or where things like this are sold, right? So ZDNet did a pretty good story on it. I had a few questions after reading it, though. And one was, did Disney Plus really get hacked? Or were people just using bad password hygiene? One of those two things is a lot more likely than the other. And they mentioned all this. They talked about it. And they threw a third thing into the mix, which I also think is possible. And that is, well, maybe somebody just has a keylogger on their computer and it's sniffing up every single password they ever type in. Also possible, probably a little less likely.
Yeah.
Really, what the problem is, I think, and I don't have numbers to back this up, and the ZDNet story didn't have numbers to back it up either. So I think we need to keep things in context. We'll talk about that in a second. But the bigger problem is people reusing passwords. And why is that? Let's say you use Phil123 as your password on Netflix.
I do.
And Netflix gets hacked. You do. It's a horrible password. Please change it. And say Netflix gets hacked, and now they have your email address and your password for that service, and somebody's going to say, that's a pretty simple password, and people are pretty lazy. I'm going to start trying that all over the place and see what happens. It's called credential stuffing. I'm willing to bet in the vast majority of cases that's what happened here. Now, go back to the context of the matter, right? 10 million plus subscribers. My question is the number of quote-unquote hacked accounts more or less appropriate for that number of subscriptions? I have no idea. Disney's not going to tell us either. Right. So I don't know if this is abnormal for that for that sort of scale, or if this is absolutely what Disney would expect. I think it would also be fair to say, Phil, you're blaming the victim here. It's not their fault that somebody got their password from other services. And I would say, well, actually, the fault lies on both sides. It doesn't make it okay to steal people's passwords, but we as users have a responsibility because the internet is built backwards. It's not built for security. It's built to be open. And then they decided later, hey, passwords are probably a good idea. We have to employ basic password hygiene that involves not reusing the same password ever. Using strong, unique passwords, right? Use a password manager of some sort. The best password is the password you don't even know. And it's that basic sort of thing that will generally, 9 times out of 10, keep most people out of trouble.
Mm-hmm. Now, one of the things that's kind of confusing to me then, so is the idea here that these accounts, somebody just sort of went and said, okay, well, because I have james@gmail.com and the password is Phil123 for some reason, I'm just going to assume that that's also a Disney Plus password, and then I'm sort of publishing this all as a list of Disney Plus passwords that I have. How are the people that are claiming that they have all of these Disney Plus accounts, how are they verifying that those are actually Disney Plus accounts if it didn't come straight from the Disney Plus service?
I have no idea, which is why I would recommend not buying hacked passwords off the dark web. You're trusting criminals to not lie to you. But that's how it works, right? So they get one, they try it out and says, oh, this thing works here, so let's sell it to somebody else. Now, it's kind of a dumb thing to think about the scale at which you and I would work, right? If I want a hacked Disney Plus password, why don't I just get a $7 Disney Plus account myself?
Right.
Because sooner or later, somebody's going to figure this out. But for the seller, it makes total sense, especially if they're doing this at scale, right? They're the ones who are going to make money. You're not actually going to save anything. It's a problem. And again, I think a good part of the blame lies on us, the users. Sorry, that's just the way the internet works. It's not fair. It's not right. but that's the way it works. That's not to say Disney can't do some things. There's an excellent service called Have I Been Pwned that tracks data breaches, and if your username and password gets caught up in a data breach, it can alert you and say, hey, this thing's out there. You probably want to change that password. They have an API that companies can use to ingest all of that information. Google actually has something like that built into Chrome now. Plenty of other services do too. If Disney had employed that when you signed up for your account, james@gmail.com, Phil123, Disney Plus could have said, hey, actually, that's not really a good password. You shouldn't use that. Let's try something else. So there's that. There's two-factor authentication, which I go back and forth on whether I care about Disney Plus having that or not. Ideally, every service should have two-factor authentication. I'm a huge proponent of that. I will talk till I'm blue in the face about it. But for a consumer service like this, it's a really high wall for your grandmother to try the first time. So I absolutely get, from a services standpoint, why it doesn't have two-factor authentication. There's also the fact that Disney Plus really doesn't care about password sharing right now. You know, the old thing where your parents want to, check out Disney Plus, you give them your account. Or there's the matter of, my daughters want to use Disney Plus on their devices. Mm-hmm. Do I really need to make them, create an account? Or the profiles that Disney Plus has just isn't set up for that sort of thing yet. So that's a bigger deal that they just haven't done yet. There are ways to mitigate it, and Disney still can employ some. But right now, the best thing you can do is just don't use a password over and over again. Please, I beg you.
I'm going to side with you, Ms. Nickinson, with putting the responsibility on the user and not necessarily putting it on Disney or any of these other services. The question I have is if these hackers, if you will, have grabbed these passwords that are essentially working because they grabbed it from somewhere else, why hasn't anybody thought about looking into what these other sites that were potentially compromised and trying to get that squared away? I think that's just an issue of the type of customers that we're dealing with these days. Of they're using password 123 or using Mickey Mouse 8, 9, 10 or what have you for their passwords and don't really think about, I should probably look at my other services. I should probably look at Netflix and make sure that password is good to go too. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, it comes back to the internet being built backwards. It was built open without any security. And you would think in 2019, with a brand new service, they would have thought of that and said, we need to do a little bit here to protect our customers. And I wish Disney had, and I will absolutely fault them for not doing just a little bit more to try to protect people from that. What can they do in the meantime? That's the big question, right? Mm-hmm. How are they helping all of these people who couldn't log in on day one because they'd already signed up, but somebody else had already taken over their account somehow? That I don't know. And again, it comes back to what sort of scale are we talking about? Are we really talking about thousands? Are we talking about thousands? I just have no idea how many people, or if it's a small number or a relatively small, quote unquote, acceptable number. It doesn't make it okay, but from that point of view, I get it. Is that just the cost of doing business? Maybe it is. I really hope Disney takes care of the people who have had problems. It's an excellent service. Great shows so far, great content. This is the future of watching video online. It's just a shame to see these sorts of headaches on day one.